And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast.
Flippity-jibbity nonsense.
I thought it was terrific.
It's not just big, it's yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome, and thanks for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jeff Morey, and I'm your host. This week, I'm excited to welcome Jake Dines to the show. Jake is the founder and CEO of Tacticon Armament, a superb manufacturer of body armor, gun holsters, optics, and combat-ready tactical gear. Jake is not only the founder of this great company, he is also a U.S. Army veteran. I myself am a proud owner of one of Tacticon's excellent Level 3 Plus bulletproof vests, and I'm a big fan of his company and their products. I'm excited to talk to Jake about Tacticon, his military service, and the future of tactical gear innovations and manufacturing. But before I welcome Jake to the show, let's talk about some of this week's big news stories. This week, we lost two iconic legends, Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne, both leaving behind massive legacies in entertainment and the hearts of their fans. I grew up watching Hulk Hogan wrestle. That's what me and my friends call it, wrestling. And he literally single-handedly built what we know as modern-day professional wrestling. He also paved the way for the Dwayne Johnsons and John Cenas of the world to make the transition from wrestling to TV and movies. Ozzy was a founding father of modern hard rock music, and not only that, he was also one of the pioneers of modern reality TV with the Osbournes. Their passings unite us in remembering the power of showmanship and rebellious spirit, reminding us that even cultural icons eventually rest, but their impact and contributions will live forever. In a pivotal ruling, the Supreme Court has temporarily stayed an appeals court decision that could have seriously weakened the Voting Rights Act, specifically the private right to sue over racial discrimination in 7 states. For conservatives, this signals cautious optimism. The court isn't rushing to dismantle key federal voting protections, preserving state control where appropriate, and allowing for more deliberate, limited reform. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's associate serving a 20-year sentence, is now engaging with the Justice Department in a House committee subpoena. Her attorney says she answered every question truthfully in a productive session, and she's even pursuing a Supreme Court appeal. Everyone is watching this closely. If Maxwell has new insights to share, this could cast fresh light on Epstein's network and blow the door wide open on the Epstein files. The FCC has approved an $8.4 billion merger between Paramount and Skydance on the condition that DEI programs are shut down and an independent ombudsman is installed to ensure balanced coverage. Many conservatives see this as a win. It's a move toward editorial neutrality and accountability in mainstream media, countering liberal bias while refreshing a major media empire. This week in Boise, Idaho, Brian Koberger, the former criminology PhD student who admitted to the brutal knife murders of 4 University of Idaho students in November 2022, was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus an additional 10 years for burglary in order to pay over $270,000 in fines and restitution. He entered a plea deal earlier this month to avoid the death penalty and declined the last opportunity to speak or explain his motives, simply saying, "I respectfully decline," when the court pressed him. Heart-wrenching victim impact statements filled the courtroom. Surviving roommates described flashbacks and terror, with one calling Koberger a hollow vessel devoid of empathy. The judge, calling him a faceless coward, made clear that any attempt to speculate on motive would only fuel Kohberger's desire for notoriety. Investigators tied him to the crime through DNA found on a knife, cell phone location pings, surveillance footage, and online purchase records. With no clear explanation for the killings yet revealed, the sentencing brings some closure, but leaves lingering questions about why this tragedy occurred and whether we'll ever know the full story. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has announced a formal investigative task force looking into alleged intelligence politicization under the Obama administration, specifically claims of a coup-like operation against Trump after 2016. Just like the Epstein files, I'll believe it when I see it, so far as Obama ever getting arrested and charged. But I'll hold out hope that maybe one day Barack Obama's crimes against this country and his involvement with the deep state government corruption will be exposed. All right, I think that about covers all the big and important news stories this week. At this time, I would like to welcome my guest, Jake Dines. Welcome, Jake. Thanks for joining me, bud.
It's good to be here, brother. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Before I geek out on tactical gear, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your military service?
Yeah, 100%, man. Grew up in Sacramento, California. Did construction for a little while. Towers fell. Joined the Army. Went to the 173rd Airborne out of Italy in the Army. And was out there for a bit. Trained in Germany for about 8 months. Deployed to Afghanistan for about 13 months in the Kandahar province down there. And when I got back, went to school. UC Davis. Did statistical regression analysis. Got a job as a underwriter for commercial surety. Wanted to blow my brains out, and then started making baby onesies. Funny enough, because I knew I wanted to. I knew I wanted to start a company, man. I really wanted to start a company, and I knew I wanted to work for myself, and I didn't quite know how to do it. So, what better way to cut my teeth than get a $3 baby onesie, find a way to screen print on those, and develop funny baby sayings like things like "lock up your sons, my daddy's got guns" on a pink onesie or something, and then resell those on Etsy and on my website. And that's kind of how I cut my teeth in e-commerce right there, was with onesies. And then from there I went from onesies to gunsies, and here's the progression of that. I had a my sister carried a Glock 43 inside of her purse. Now when she carried inside of her purse, she would put it in a holster and then leave it in her purse. And I said, well, how do you draw that, right? Like, how do you get that thing out of your purse with one hand, or even know where it is when it's inside of your purse? And she didn't. So I developed an apparatus called purse holster that basically locks inside of each end of the purse, like a baby gate, if you will, right? So imagine ratcheting something out like a baby gate and locking it in, and you're able to draw it with one hand, and you know where your firearm is at all times. And we went through a few iterations of that, and then she liked it, and I believe it was her that said, if I like it, somebody else might like it. I'm not a fan of off-body carry, but women are going to do it because there's limited options on a woman to carry. So we developed that. I made that in my garage for about a year, and then got a small little warehouse. And I was still in my garage after about a year and a half making that, a belly band holster. I started getting into women's concealed carry because there was a huge gap in the market for that. And then I remembered back to the time where I got out of the military, and I was trying to build my AR. Like, one of the first things that I went and bought when I got out of the military was an AR, just to kind of sleep in bed with it. You know what I mean? It was the one thing that kind of kept me feeling safe. So I remember paying $600 for the gun, having the guy behind the counter tell me that I was about to pay $180 for iron sights, which are these the Troy iron sights. $600 red dot. I mean, an $80 sling, and it just didn't make sense to me because the prices were insane. And I'm looking at these,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm looking at these aluminum iron sights. I'm thinking, there's no way that aluminum iron sights cost $180 to make. For shit, I was right. So I moved into tactical gear, And that was one of my first products that I put on my website, on Amazon, on other third-party marketplaces, was the flip-up iron sights, and we really got going with that. So we had it was basically purse holster, belly band holsters for women. We had gun magnets that you could put inside of a desk or under a desk. You know, kind of the what is that? Say hello to my little friend. What's the that Scarface thing? You know what I mean? Just
Right.
kind of throw a gun under your desk or inside of your center console, right? And so it was gun mounting solutions is where I was going with the business. And then I transitioned over the tactical equipment once I saw a gap in the market for uh, value equipment that needed to be had for the everyday American, and it wasn't being served, right? So there was a huge gap. Huge gap. I couldn't find it. There was the Chinesian brand, like full Chinesian brands that would break. I would test them, they would break. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna be full disclosure. A lot of the stuff that I started to source when I first started the company was from China. It was, but what I did was I found factories that were that had the capabilities to make things like iron sights. They would send them to me, and maybe the windage or elevation would roll backwards, especially for like red dots, things like that. All I would have to do is work with them and fix it. Say, hey, the glass fell out. Let's reinforce this. Let's do that. You can get those factories to do anything you want them to do, so long as you test and test and test your products. And so that's exactly what I was doing. I was like, I figured out a way to be able to get quality equipment over here to be able to serve the American people while being able to also produce the goods that would stand the test of time. So the goal was to be able to produce and serve quality equipment to Americans at a reasonable price. And what I did, let me give you the full read through of like how we went about doing that. We started manufacturing those purse holsters, for example, in my garage. Then what I did was I realized that those cost me about $17.50 to make in my garage, even without my labor, right? And I was selling them for 40. When I got them injection molded overseas, it was not only a more consistent product, a better product with reinforced nylon ABS that didn't have any deficiencies, because I was handmade is cool, right? It sounds good rolling off the tongue. But when you manufacture something, there's consistency in
Yeah,
manufacturing.
absolutely.
I mean, it was a beautiful thing. And so when I started getting these things delivered, I was able to bring the price down from 40 to 20 and double my profit margin, because I was getting them landed at 275 a unit. So now we're talking like I'm making, basically the same
Yeah, you
profit
double
on
your
the top,
margins.
but I'm doubling margins,
Yeah.
right? I'm tripling margins. And I was able to expand my business. And then eventually I was able to get the CNC machines and the equipment to be able to produce that stuff back here. So what I did was it was full circle. It was sent it over there, ran production, was able to reduce my price by 50%, 10 to 20x my sales volume, use that money to buy equipment to be able to bring that manufacturing back over here. Right. And so I just leveraged overseas manufacturing to bring it back to US manufacturing for our holsters. So I hope that makes
Hey,
sense to anybody.
absolutely, brother. You got to do what you got to do when you're starting a
Yeah.
business like that, man. I understand 100%. I mean, that's the path a lot of people have to take. So absolutely, no worries there whatsoever. But it's 100% American made now, man. That's one of the great things about Tacticon.
That's
So
right.
I am
Yep.
a proud owner of one of your fine products myself. I have a level 3+ vest, and I guess I probably need to get with the times and go ahead and get a level 4 at some point. But
No, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. I'd argue that all day, man. I made a
really,
video about why level 3 armor sucks and why level 4 armor sucks and why level 3 armor is the worst.
really, okay.
Absolutely.
I
So
had a
like,
buddy that I worked with actually last weekend, or a couple weekends ago. He went to a gun show here in East Tennessee, and he he went and he told me, he called me when he was there, and he said, "Hey man," he said, "they got this level 3 vest." He said, I think he wanted, I want to say he said it was like 500 or something. And I said, "Man, no, no." I said, "Please. I'm glad he called me." I said, "No." I said, "I want you to get on your phone right now." I said, "I want you to go to tacticon.com." I said,
yeah,
"Please tell me how much a level 3+ vest is on Tacticon and how much you're about to pay for a level 3." And he
right.
didn't know anything about vests. And I said, "Man, it's just, basically," and correct me if I'm wrong, basically just the difference is the caliber of bullet that each type of plate is going to stop, correct?
Correct. Yep, that's correct.
More or
Yep.
less. But I
Yep.
mean, you're talking a pretty big difference between a 3 and a 3+, right?
There's the only difference between a 3 and a 3 plus is the green tip, which green tip is a lot more prevalent right now because with COVID, when all the ammo's cleared, when all the ammunition got cleared off the shelf, the only thing that was really left for anybody to buy was green tip. So most guys don't go out and train with green tip. Most guys, they'll buy a little bit of it, put it in a stockpile, and say, okay, that's going to be here for whatever rises. But when there was nothing left to buy, everybody went out and bought green tip. Now everybody's got green tip because it just flew off the shelves. It was the only thing that was remaining. And so you got every household pretty much armed up with that. So it's a smart idea to put that ceramic strike face. The only difference between a level 3 and a level 3 plus plate typically is a small, very, very thin 3 millimeter ceramic strike face, which is able to defeat that steel core penetrator within that green tip round. So that's really the only difference. And honestly, like we took it to another level where we did an SRT and an SRT plus. And SRT stands for Special Rifle Threat. That means instead of stopping 308 like you would with a level 3 plate, we stop 5.56 and 7.62 by 39, which is AR/AK rounds, and then an SRT plus, which has the ceramic strike face. And what that does is it brings that weight down from 3 to 3.5 pounds on a level 3 plate down to 2.5 pounds on our plate, as well as down to about, from anywhere between 5.5 pounds on a level 3 plus down to about 4 pounds on our level SRT plus plate. And the reason why we did that is because the 308 is not a prominent round. We're looking at, you understand that 94% of most shootings are with a handgun. Now that leaves 6% for rifles. Now, what percentage of that 6% is a 308? It is less than, I believe it was when I looked up the number, less than 5% was of shootings with a rifle was with a 308. So you're talking about 5% of 6%. It's negligible. Like
Right.
why we need to protect ourselves from a 308 round is kind of ridiculous. And the thing is our SRT plates and most SRT plates out there on the market will actually stop a 308. It just won't do it within back face deformation guidelines. If you want me to elaborate that on that, I can.
Sure, because I know nothing about that. So this will be educational for me as well.
Sure. Yeah. Back face deformation just basically is the how much did the back of the plate protrude when being hit by the round? So how much damage is being done on the other side of the plate, even though it didn't penetrate? 44 millimeters is the NIJ, the National Institute of Justice, regulation of the extent of back face deformation you're allowed to have before it causes serious bodily harm. It won't cause death, but it could break ribs. It could maybe stop the heart if it hit the right place.
Impact.
And so the
impact alone.
impact.
Right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So we were getting like 47, 48 millimeters of face deformation with the 308 on our SRT plates, but it would stop a 308 round. Well, I'll take that all day, especially if I could shave off a pound, right? So yeah, it's that's kind of why that's my go-to plate right there. Go-to plate is going to be an SRT plus, sits at 4 pounds, nice and light, and it'll stop pretty much everything.
Can you elaborate? Why do you think it's important that most Americans have body armor and tactical gear at this point?
Well, I think that the only reason that we carry any sort of armaments is, it's my belief. It should be, I would hope this gets more ubiquitous as time goes on, but my belief that we are here to protect ourselves against our government and foreign and domestic. Government's foreign and domestic. So if the government has body armor, we should have it too. And it's not something for home defense. I mean, the odds are that you're gonna like be at home, have a break-in, throw on a plate carrier, and then clear your house is pretty negligible, in my opinion.
It's a lot of time. Yep.
Yeah, I've got my opinions on the whole break into the house thing, right? And my opinion on that is you don't go out and clear the house unless, which for most people, they've got kids in the other room. But if your kids are sleeping next to you, near you, you get them, you put them in one room with you, you hold up in that room and you wait for somebody to come through that doorway, right? So you got that fatal funnel coming in the doorway, and that's how you're able to exercise that defense. So I would say that body armor, firearms, if you're going to have any sort of armament to be able to protect yourself, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to match whatever your government has. It's going to be tough because we don't have Apache helicopters, but This is, you know what I
Right.
mean? And that's, you got guys like Biden saying shit like this, right? Like the shit that comes out of that guy's mouth is, well, we've got F-16s, you've got AR-15s. What are you going to do? I was like, I don't know, man. I spent a pretty fair amount of time in the sandbox, like getting fucked up by dudes with AK-47s and sandals.
I'll say
Because
you're not going to catch a prepper deep in his bunker with an F-16 and a Tomahawk missile. I got bad news
no,
for you. I mean, first of all, you're not even going to be able to sight him
right.
So I mean I know that's one of the stupidest things he ever said.
Well, not to mention you can't kill an ideology, and he's saying this in the middle of a war where
Right.
like any veteran's sitting back looking at that, going, Are you off your fucking rocker, man? And I mean, the answer is obviously yes, because we're not only losing a war too, but Russians lost a war too, men with AK-47s and sandals, but they won because they had an ideology. You can't kill an idea, you can't kill freedom, you can't kill the Constitution. There you go. Yeah, but you can't kill the idea of freedom, man. Like, and it's like behind every blade of grass as an American with a rifle, as the old Japanese general said in World War II. That's why nobody's invaded us, right? And so you don't need F-15s. It's proven that you don't need F-15s. It's
Right.
F-16s, F-35s, whatever, F-22 Raptors. There's the yeah, we'll get tore up. I guarantee it. But there's 300 and some odd million of us, and you're not going to get too far, So like that was a direct threat to the American people, and I hope they saw that when he said that. That was one of the most egregious threats to the American people that I think I've ever seen from a president.
Yeah, well, I think the election results spoke for themselves as far as that and a lot of his other things. So,
That's right.
absolutely. Any other products or anything that you're developing currently you can talk about? Anything new on the
Yeah.
pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a bunch of different projects. We're doing AR-15s and AR-10s right now. We developed something called an AR-12.5, kind of gimmicky, I get it, but it's basically a really wieldy 7-pound AR-10. So it's a AR chambered in 308. So it can go out to long distances, 16 to an 18-inch barrel, depending on which one you order. And we just got that spun up about a couple of years ago doing firearm manufacturing. So that's one of them. We're getting into night vision. That's the next evolution of it. Once I get some,
Okay.
yeah, once I get some investment in the company, I'm going to start getting the Gen 2 tubes and starting to make affordable night vision. Right?
Hey
It's
man,
not going to be the best night vision you could get, but
you just spoke my language, brother.
yep.
I
I
talk
mean,
about it in my show. I mean, big 1/3 of my show is prepping, and I preach about night vision and about how much of a game changer. I did an episode, my two episodes ago was top 10 game changing preps, and I always preach about night vision, man, because that's when an SHTF situation, brother. I think that having that ability, because people are going to be held up. I feel like they're going to be held up in their homes, their bunkers, or whatever,
yep,
if something truly happens. So you're gonna be out and about. You're gonna be scavenging at night. You know what I
yep,
mean? And if you, God forbid, you don't ever want to think about having to take something from somebody else. But when it comes to my family, man, my family comes first. It's God,
yep.
then family, then country.
That's it.
That's what it
That's it.
is for
Yep.
me. And if I have to take, that's what I have to do. I mean, that's something I don't want to think about. But that night vision, man, it's gonna set you apart. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with, man. I've got some night vision stuff myself, but it's definitely not, nowhere near the grade that it should be. I mean,
It'll be,
you
it'll be simple. And ours isn't going to be the grade that it should be. I'm not a night vision company. What I do is I figure out a creative way to get things to the market at a reasonable price. You know what I mean? Like, and I do it creatively. I source from creative places, and I use our own manufacturing to be able to, and I'll be honest with you exactly how I'm doing it. So the plan is to be able to so what I'm going to do is I'm going to retain tubes, use our manufacturing to be able to create the apparatus that holds them, obviously connects them to the helmet, which we already make, right? And be able to produce a whole headboard defense system, to where you can have a ballistic helmet and you can have a night vision situation, and hopefully keep the entire thing with a helmet, a ballistic helmet, and night vision under what I would like to do for a 3A, which we'll get into in a little bit on the different levels, but 3A is pistol and ballistic threats, fragmentation threats. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Under $2,000, right? My goal is to be able to service maybe an $1,800 ballistic helmet with night vision, like all
the full
wrapped up
setup,
into one, the whole set,
ready to go,
setup.
plug and play, go.
Yep, 100% ready to go. Because the thing is like, yeah, that other guy might have better night vision. Okay. Is 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 it going to make the difference in battle? Probably not. Your training is.
No.
And that's why I emphasize so heavily on training. You can give me a set of $10,000 golf clubs, like just the most pristine, well-fitted golf clubs on the planet, and give Tiger Woods this old 1930s set of fucking actual woods, you know what I mean? Just maybe even a baseball bat. And he could probably hit the ball better and further and more accurately than me because he's trained to do so. There's no need for the equipment. There's need for training. Now, if your training exceeds your equipment, that's when you buy more equipment. That's when you upgrade, right? When you're like, hey, I'm just not getting the MOA on this rifle that I want to, man. If those words come out of your mouth that you can notice the MOA on your barrel, like, go into a 3 or a 4 or a 5 MOA, get a new rifle, get a new barrel. You know what I mean? But
Right.
most people can't hit that MOA, right? So most people have to train for a little bit before they exceed their equipment's capabilities. And so I always recommend everybody, there's the old saying, buy once, cry once. I don't believe that at all. I believe if you've got to have something and something that you can afford. Yes, buy once, cry once. I completely agree with if you're just rolling in money and you can spend it on whatever you want to. But if you are budgeted like most Americans are, then you have to be able to choose what it is that you put in your arsenal. And you have to be able to train with those things. And if you don't have the money to train, but you're buying $10,000 rifles and you've got $20,000 worth of ammo sitting in your garage and you haven't shot around, you're doing it wrong. Period. It's that is my opinion.
Absolutely. I say the same thing. I like to steal from President Trump when he likes to say, but I take it in a different context. I like to say drill, baby, drill. But
Yep.
I'm not talking about drilling for oil.
Right. Exactly.
So, yep.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah, I am a firm believer that I still, and the reason I shoot the rifles that I do and I carry the handguns that I do, it's not to look, I love staccatos. Like that gun is God, it is God's gift to any American that can shoot a fucking pistol. It is a beautiful, buttery, juicy little pistol that you could you almost don't even need to know how to shoot one of those things. It is a great pistol. But the reason why I don't shoot with that is because I campaign my mission on training. And I don't think you need to. And in fact, I've done multiple tests that I have a video that we never released because Nolan ended up leaving, but I still have the footage where we actually ran a no, maybe we did release that one. We ran a high point against an M&P against a staccato. And what we did was we set up variables between each one, basically ran kind of a stats program of what type of value do you get by spending an extra $2,000, $3,000 on a handgun? The value wasn't there. Did the staccato outperform? Kind of in some scenarios, ish, but not really, right? And so what would you get more value out of? $2,000 worth of ammunition or a $2,000 gun or a $3,000 gun? No, it's not even comparable. You go put $3,000 worth of rounds down range on an M&P 2.0 that cost me $599, right? And I guarantee you will outperform the guy that hasn't shot one round down range on a guy with a staccato, right? It's night and day. There's no comparison. Get that many rounds in, get the training in, buy the ammunition, and I promise you, like anybody that's listening to this right now, it will pay dividends. And then if you get to the point where you're like, look, I just can't quite hit the top left side of the head that I was aiming at for some reason, okay, get a staccato. Like if you're that accurate, then get a higher performing firearm. Or if you have an endless budget, get a higher performing firearm. But if you're budgeted, and I guarantee most people listen, because most people are, even I am, even as a business owner that does fairly well, I still put my value in training.
Man, you'll laugh at me. I'm going to get into my next segment here, what I want to ask you about, but everyday carry. But man, I carry a Ruger 380 LCP, with hollow blanks.
Okay. All right. I'm not
mean-
laughing. I mean, that's a small gun, right? That's
Yeah, I mean, but
that's about as small as you can get.
it is, but it's kind that's why it's compact,
Yeah.
and I'm a truck driver. I've got to carry a bunch of crap on me all the time, half the time.
Okay.
So I think about weight. I just think about portability, and I mean, I like the laser sight on it. I mean, I feel like for it's going to do what I need to do when the time
Can I
comes.
ask you a question
Yeah.
about that?
Yep.
So, why do you carry a 380 when 9mm is more prevalent? I'm not trying to get a gotcha moment. I'm just asking.
Just size, basically, because
Got
like
it.
on the weekends I'm wearing board shorts, and I like the pocket carry. To be honest with
Okay.
you, I've just never been
Got it.
comfortable body carrying.
Got it.
I just never. I'm really funny about that. I've just never found anything that fit me good. So for pocket
Yeah.
carry, it's just that it's the most practical thing for me for pocket carry.
Oh, nice. So you pocket carry. You don't.
I pocket carry.
Interesting.
And like
Okay.
you mentioned about the purse, I with females, I've always had the mindset quick draw, and
Right.
that's there's no quicker draw than pocket carry. I don't care what
There's
anybody says.
there. Well, no. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's no
So
quicker draw because the reason why. You explain it. Go ahead.
and you just you pull it out and that's it.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, I mean, if you're
it doesn't
if
get any
you're in a
simpler than
situation
that.
where someone's holding you up, right? If you're in a situation where there might be a firearm around, if you have your hands in your pockets, people don't really think anything of it. You start putting your
Right.
hand in your waistband,
Well, and
right?
a 9mm is going to print. I mean, if you're pocket
Exactly. Yep.
carrying, it's going to print. I can carry. My wife picks on me because I wear kind of loose clothes sometimes, but I don't print when I carry that 380. I don't print at all. I mean, so
Nice.
people, even wearing my board shorts, sometimes I don't print. And
Got it.
I've been picked on that about got me and buddies. We all argue about this thing all the time. I got one buddy that swears that he can draw. He does not leave a round chambered, and he swears that he can draw and aim and shoot quicker than any of us that have a round chamber. And I'm like, okay, buddy.
Have you
Sure.
tested that?
Yeah, no,
You should.
but I know, but
Yeah.
he swears it, and I'm like, all right, man, whatever you say, but
Yeah.
to each
No,
to
pocket
each
carry
his
is
own,
great.
I
Yeah.
guess. But that's I
No.
pocket carry.
Yeah, I don't judge pocket carry at all. I mean,
Yeah,
the first thing I would do if I pocket carried, you throw your hands in your body and say, "Listen, man, I'm good." You throw your hands up, you put your hands in your pocket, and say, "I'm not here to, just do your thing," and then boom, it's game over. So,
Yep, and I'm
I
blessed to
get
live
that.
in the state of Tennessee, which is a constitutional carry state. So,
Yep, as it should be.
brother, I don't go to church without my gun in my pocket.
Good.
So,
If there's any place you should carry, it's probably there. Like that's where people are vulnerable, and we've seen that time and time again.
yeah, absolutely. Speaking of training, I saw on your website, Tacticon's doing something really cool right now. You're offering and I'll let you elaborate on it, a 2A pro course. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that?
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so I just wanted to navigating the Second Amendment arena in a business is incredibly difficult. I mean, there's a lot of payment processors that you can't use. There's a lot of websites and CMS platforms. CMS is content management software, which is basically, think Shopify, WordPress, Squarespace, right? Like all these different websites, the Wix, right? That's a CMS. And so Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, they don't allow for Second Amendment stuff. And so you might be able to get body armor on Shopify, but you sure as hell can't get firearms on Shopify, and you can't get optics. And there's certain things that you can't do with Google pay-per-click marketing with even optics or anything that attaches itself to a rifle. And so you have to know how to navigate these systems. And starting a business is one thing, and there's a whole lot to learn about it. And anybody can have a course that's built a business around anything. Anybody can establish a course on building a business who's built a business. But the thing that's very specific to our community in the 2A Pro course is we build that business with you and around you and with the community. And we show you exactly how it's done. The community, I think, is the most important thing inside the 2A Pro course, because we've got, I think, over 600 enrollments now. And you're just talking about a ton of like-minded individuals all going after the same thing. And I encourage each and every one of them not only to produce defense equipment, because that industry it's difficult to get into. It's fairly saturated right now. And people automatically think, oh, I'm going to go make optics, or I'm going to go make holsters, or I'm going to go. And I would advise against that. And here's the reason why.
What I push towards is build a Second Amendment company, right? And this, look, I'm gonna negate everything I just said by saying this. Get away from, if anybody wants to build a business, get away from building it inside of the defense industry at least at first, and get into a company that represents the Second Amendment, that represents the American patriot. Think Black Rifle Coffee Company. That is a $1 billion publicly traded company because they chose a target avatar, which was the veteran, which was the patriot, and they took a commodity and built that business around that commodity. You have to find a market to serve. The Second Amendment market is completely underserved. The patriot market is completely underserved. I had a guy in the course. I could tell you a dozen stories of a dozen different, dozens and hundreds of stories about guys in the course that are building businesses around the Second Amendment, but don't necessarily, they're not creating firearms. They're not building body armor. They're not manufacturing holsters, right? And the reason, one of them is, it's a guy that owns a surf company, and he made these, there's these little stickers. I don't know a ton about surfing, but I do know he was making these stickers that go on top of a surfboard that, it's basically the tread pads that your feet go on a surfboard, right? And you can replace them and you can put them over the top of your surfboard. And they're just essentially stickers that offer a little bit of adhesion from your feet to the board. And then he developed a tourniquet that would strap from the surfboard to your it was the tether, basically the tether that held your leg to the surfboard when you fell off of it, had a tourniquet on it because you can go down, get your leg cut in coral, right? But he marketed it as a patriot company, like a patriot backed company, a company that supported the Second Amendment. And I'll tell you right now, if I was going to walk into his surfboard shop, especially if I didn't know anything about surfboards, and I saw a military owned or a veteran owned or a just patriot backed Second Amendment forward company that was selling a surfboard, I would choose that one because that aligns with me. And I know that people like them do things like I do. And that's where I spend my money. And so I always encourage guys to say, look, think about the bigger picture, especially because there's a larger market share, right? And at the same time, there's a smaller market share, right? And that's really what the beauty is about starting a business is drill down into that subset of niche and you will make way more money than you ever will if you try to serve everybody. And the reason why is because when you try to serve everybody, you essentially serve nobody because nobody knows who you are.
Right.
I'll
You
give
don't have
you
an
a good
identity.
example. Exactly. I'll give you a good example of this. Nike. If Nike were to build a hotel, you can imagine what it would look like. It would have a ton of gyms in it, right? There'd be women walking around in yoga pants. There would be physically fit people inside of it. There would be juice bars in there. It would be very healthy. There'd be people kneeling for the flag, right? So like you can truly identify what that would look like if Nike had a hotel. However, if Hyatt had a shoe, do you have any idea what the Hyatt shoe would look like? No, because Hyatt doesn't have a brand. Hyatt is a hotel that it's a nice hotel, but you don't know what Hyatt represents. There's no, and the reason why it's funny or comical and depressing all at the same time that I say kneeling for the flag, you know what they represent. Even though it goes against my values, they represent something. They stood for something. They kneeled for something, right?
And they have a strong following because of it.
Because
whether
of
we
it,
like it or
because they
not.
chose to go in that direction, right?
Yep.
And they chose a path, they went with that path, and they're doing well because of it. So we have to think about it like that. And if we choose to, every time I'm telling you, like I have conversations with students all the time inside of this 2A Pro course that they're like, well, if I just did this, I would open up to so much more of a market. I'm like, no, but you'd be ostracizing the market that really cares about your product and cares about your values. That's the most important part. And that's what I try to teach. It's basically a marketing course, really, but it's a marketing course to be able to perpetuate the 2A. Take 3% of your profits and dedicate it back into the Second Amendment. I mean, do small things like that and people will buy your product. Even if it's a tumbler, even if it's a coffee cup, even if it's a t-shirt. Those are the things that made brands like Grunt Style great. Grunt Style is a huge company.
Yeah, I got some
Massive.
Grunt Style stuff.
Yeah, they sell t-shirts, but they sell it to the right market. It's a small market. It's a small subset of people. It started very small. It was very much a veteran. Veterans make up 1% of the population, man, and that's what they were selling to. They were Gun Style was selling to veterans, and not just to veterans. They were selling to infantry veterans. That was the initial. They not only targeted military, they targeted infantry military.
Very
Even
specific
smaller,
niche within.
very
Yeah, within.
specific. And they blew up. Let the market expand on its behalf, not on your behalf. It's not up to you. Serve that small segment of the market, and people will pick up on that. And that's the whole point of the 2A Pro course. You know, that's the whole point of that. It really is. It takes, you get the direction of our team, you get the direction of me, and you're able to leverage our assets and one thing that I like to do, man, like I do this whole 10K in 10 days thing in the course. And the whole premise of it is take some gear from us that you put a deposit on, take it out to a gun show and make some money, and start using that to be able to create the capital that is going to be necessary to run your business. It's easy. It's zero risk. You literally put a deposit on inventory. I give it to you. I show you how to run a gun show. You go out for a couple of days. You make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, right? Half of that's profit, and you put some money into your company. The inventory that you don't sell, you just return it to us and I give you your deposit back.
Wow.
Right? So that's it. We use our inventory to be able to allow people to use that as a launch pad to get it all going, right? To get their, because it does cost a little bit of money to start a business. So it starts there though. And you start to learn your customer base. You start to learn how they talk, how they walk. You walk into a gun show, man, you're going to find your target avatar real quick. It's going to be the first guy that walks up to your booth and said, what are you selling? Right. So, you know, in-person sales, man, you can't, if you could talk to him in person, you could talk to him online, you know, and that's
Absolutely.
that's a whole other part of the course is the social media component of it. Yeah.
Awesome stuff, man. I mean, that's support right there. You don't get that kind of support from pretty much anybody. So that's awesome stuff.
And they have access to, you know, we've got our engineer, like, you know, prototyping, you know, products for guys. We got guys in our company we show you how to ship stuff and what software to use when you ship, and like what software is caters to kind of the Second Amendment stuff. And, you know, we really do try to, you know, everything is just catered to the 2A. I mean, that's what I do. Like, that's all I do is I cater to the 2A, I cater to the Constitution, right? Very much so. So, you know, any companies that we're involved with, that's how we roll.
Awesome stuff, man. A couple more questions before I let you go. What does Jake Dines everyday carry?
So M&P 2.0, very, I don't know if I should say, it's not 10 round mags. I'll say that. Maybe they're 8, Mr. Government, but they're not 10 round mags, but M&P 2.0, you know, definitely got a pocket knife. I got an IFAK on me at all times, not on my person per se, but I definitely have an IFAK in my vehicle wherever I go. You know, it was funny, man. I had this, I don't know if you guys, if anybody here has heard of Focus Trip or seen that guy on YouTube, but we went on a live one time with him. You should roll back and go look at that Focus Trip live. It was interesting because he did this whole hit piece on us. He does a hit piece on a lot of guys. He's very much involved in the drama of the gun tubing. We have a pretty big presence on social media, and he likes to involve himself in the drama of the gun tubing industry. And so he did a big hit piece on us and called us the Tacticon, you know. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, man, let's debate in person. Let's debate one-on-one. And when we did, it was really interesting for somebody to be in that space and not truly understand the benefit of medical and what it could do for you. And here's how it kind of played out. He said, well, you're selling your tourniquets for, you know, $12 a piece, but I can get one for 36. So why not just get the NAR tourniquet for $36? Everybody can afford that. You only need one. And that's where he shot himself in the foot. I'm like, you only need one? What about your wife? What about your kids?
Right.
What about your car? What about your house? What about your bedroom? What about the places that you need a tourniquet when the tourniquet is needed? You know what I mean? And so it was just very much disconnected from the reality of it. And it just kind of, you know, you could hear the silence in the room when I went for that. And so, yeah, people can afford a $36 tourniquet. Sure, I get it. I understand that. But can they afford 6 of them? Probably not. Maybe not. And that's where we come in.
Right.
Developing a very comparable product for a third of the price that will do the exact same thing. And I have tested it over and over again on live streams, on social media, showing that our product does the exact same thing. It stops the blood flow. I got a knife, I got medical, I've got a firearm, and and I am a little bit psycho. I roll around with a plate carrier in the back of my truck. If I hear gunshots or if there's a school shooting at my kid's school, you better believe, man, I'm going to be prepared to be right there. Not scared that it's a little dangerous running across campus with a firearm when cops are coming to the campus because they know somebody's got a firearm. Believe me. But if I'm the first one there because I live down the street from my elementary school, you better believe, dude, I'm going to, I'll put my life on the line, even if I get shot by a cop. It is what it is, man. I'm going in, and so I've got a plate carrier in my truck. I've got a med kit in my truck. On my person, I carry a pocket knife. I carry my phone, obviously, and I carry a firearm. And I'm really, I got Zens, which come on, man. Like you got to have a little nicotine in your diet. So, so it's definitely an EDC for me.
Got you. Well, when you're not running Tacticon, what do you like to do in your free time?
I like to play music and golf and spend time with my family. That's it.
Don't get more American than that.
Yep. Yep. Guitar, golf, family. That's about it.
Awesome,
Pretty
man.
simple. You play golf?
I do not play golf, which is funny because I used to be a key accounts manager for Budweiser out of Raleigh, North Carolina, which at the time the distributor was the second biggest in the country, I think, second or third. And we did Pinehurst. I'm sure if you're a golfer, Pinehurst. Like I did all the golf courses and, I'm a blue collar truck driver, man. Golfing is not for a blue collar guy. Unfortunately, it gets expensive. And I've always told my buddies,
you'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised.
I've always told my buddies that that play golf, I'm like, if I had more money, because God, it's just expensive to go play golf and to buy stuff. That's the only reason I've never got. If I had money, I would probably play a lot of golf because I think it would be super fun and relaxing. But I'm actually not a huge golfer, to be honest with you.
Do you find relaxation? I'm just going to ask you this real quick. Do you find relaxation in training? Because like an actual training, like, so the proper answer from a guy like me would obviously be like, why didn't he say training? Why didn't he say going out to the range? And because for me, that's work, right? For me, that's going to the gym, right? I go to the gym.
Yes.
I go to the gym. I'm not going to throw that into what do you enjoy? I enjoy playing music. I enjoy golfing. I don't enjoy the gym. It's painful. It hurts. I don't like it. I just do it because I know it's good for me. You know what I mean? I train because it's good for me, And so do you like training? Like genuinely, does it?
Yes.
You do. That's interesting.
I don't get to do it much anymore, but one of my favorite all-time things to do, I was on the hunter safety team in my high school. I love skeet shooting. I absolutely love skeet shooting.
I got to try that sometime.
That has always been, it's to me, it's just a lot more difficult and competitive than shooting a fixed target.
Got it. No, it is. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just there's a challenge level to it that's different. I don't get to do it much anymore, but I absolutely love skeet shooting. You should try it sometime if you've never done it.
I would love to.
It's difficult too. It's hard. Shooting a moving target is a lot more difficult than shooting a stationary target.
You are 100% right. Can I talk about training just for a second?
Yep.
But I want to say this, that when we go out and train, I do not shoot static anymore. I shoot static to the point where I'm like, I get the fundamentals down. Okay, I got it. Like, we're good to go. When we go out and train, I want my buddies smacking me in the back of the head. I want them shaking me on the back of the plate carrier as I'm going down range. I do dynamic shooting where we can run from cover to cover to cover. We get each other's blood pressure up. You got to get exhausted when you train. You've got to find a place, even if it's out in the woods, to run from point to point to point, get your blood pressure up, get your guys yelling at you. You know what I mean? Like just shaking you up a little bit, talking a bunch of shit to you. And the reason why is because in an environment where you have to engage a target, your blood pressure will be up. I mean, your blood's going to be pumping. You're going to be stressed out. You have to put yourself in a comparable environment to be able to shoot like that, right? And if you are running from point to point to point in any dynamic course, and it feels as if you can't breathe, and you start losing sight a little bit, and your the feeling of you're not even looking through your red dot anymore. I mean, that's typically what happened in combat. I mean, when you get shot at, you're not looking through your optic mostly. I mean, that's my experience. You are just putting rounds downrange, walking them in, seeing where they land, and hopefully hitting that guy that's shooting back at you. I mean, that is the epitome of war, of a wartime environment. It is up to you to be able to present your firearm without the optic and pull that trigger and hit that target every time without even thinking about it. It's muscle memory, right? So for me, it's not enjoyable. It's just a thing that we do. And that's why I'm not super into firearms. When people are like, "Oh, what's your favorite gun?" I'm like, I don't have one. I don't know, AR-15. I mean, like, if you really want to talk about it, but what brand? I don't care, right? Because it's a tool. It's like if you ask me what brand of hammer that I like, it's a tool. It's a tool to put a nail in a thing. I don't look at it like that. I look at firearms as tools. I don't geek out on them. I don't obsess on them. But like for me, it's kind of silly to go, well, this, the selector level, who cares, dude? Learn how to use it. You know what I mean? Like that for me, that is the most important part. Most people can't do that. I can't tell you how many dudes I've had range days with that they show up. We invite, we've got a Discord. It's the 2A, I'm a shameless plug right here, 2A Pro Discord, but it's an amazing thing where you got a lot of like-minded dudes that come in there, and they come in and they meet people in their general area and they go out and train with them. And we will invite people out on these like kind of 2A Pro range days. And when they come out, some of the guys, they'll come out with this Gucci gear and they don't know how the fuck to use it. They don't know how to shoot. They don't know how to move, communicate, any of that. It's a tool, right? So if I handed you the most badass hammer on the planet and you've never driven a nail into a piece of wood in your entire life, you're going to look like an idiot. Would you rather show up with subpar equipment like mine? Shame. I don't care. I'll call it that all day. It's value equipment, and outperform somebody with Daniel Defense and fucking Vortex optics and all the things, you know what I mean? Like a Sig optic, whatever it is, right? You've got all the Gucci gear on, but you can't outperform me. What good is that gear going to do for you?
Absolutely.
Spend some time, spend some money, get out there and train. And that's really my final thoughts on that.
Yep. Well said, brother. Yeah. Well, that's the difference between guys like me that have a emergency services background and guys like you that have actually fought defending our country. So, that have trained and done this stuff. So,
yep.
And on that note, thank you for your service, brother, for all you've done. Tacticon's awesome stuff. And I appreciate your time and I appreciate you being here with me.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be a part of this.
Absolutely, bud.
All right.
All right. That's my show for this week. Thank Jake Dines for joining me. If you're in the market for some high quality tactical equipment, then look no further than Tacticon. I love my vest and I can't wait until they start putting out some quality night vision gear. Go check out Tacticon on their website at tacticon.com. I'm like a kid at a candy store browsing all the gear they have on there. Be sure to follow me on all my social media. Subscribe to the show on your favorite platform if you haven't already. You can find me on X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky at Politic Prepper, or email me at thepppodcast@yahoo.com. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. Your source for real news and analysis on politics, prepping, paranormal, conspiracy theories, and the volatile state of the world we live in. Tune in next week and every week for a new episode. And stay safe, stay healthy, and stay vigilant.